Now that James has got you guys all fired up, we'll just dig right into the material here. So hardware is, I heard the young lady talk about how complex it is, and part of the problem with hardware is how you define it. Are you defining it at the component level? Are you defining it at the box level? Are you defining it at a solution level? And all those different layers have to tie into the application layer, the user interface, the user experience, ad nauseum, right? So that's what makes this so difficult. And it doesn't help when the carriers, and I hope there's none left in the room. I saw Mo leave, so the carriers don't make it any easier. So what I want to try to do today is just talk a little bit about how Telit sees the world and how we're changing our business model and continuing to work on things that hopefully make that easier. And that'll hopefully segue into the panel where some of the panelists are in that stack somewhere. So we'll all work together to get you where you need to be. So real quick, Telit is a $330 million company all over the globe. Everyone knows us as a module manufacturer. So we're down at the component level predominantly in what we sell. And we continue to grow. We've done 9 acquisitions in the last 5 years and continue to do. In fact, we're in the middle of one right now. So there's ongoing change. Part of that's driven by the constant evolution in technology at the carrier level, as well as influencers in some of the new wide area solutions that are competing in this space. And there is no one answer fits all from a hardware standpoint. You really have to understand what your niche is, what you're trying to do with your business model and your solution. So what we've been doing through these acquisitions is we've been trying to augment around our hardware solution other capabilities that are integrated. So we do connectivity from an MVNO standpoint. We do platform services, whether it be from a connectivity management to what we call the things management, where you're actually managing the end devices. And we've also expanded our module portfolio well beyond cellular. So you've probably seen a recent announcement in the Bluetooth space. We've been in Wi-Fi and Zigbee short range for a long time. And we're continuing to follow all the cellular technologies from a global standpoint, which everyone now has heard about Cat-M, Cat-M, Cat-NB, all the different acronyms that someone might give you. And we really see over the next 18 to 24 months a significant change in the industry. It's been long overdue. The carriers have obviously been focused, as James said, on the speed, moving upstream with the handsets and the tablets and the computers and the high-end routers for backup and things like that. But as we move into M2M and IoT, power management, battery environments, and having the ability to suspend activity, sharing processors, sharing memory, doing bundling of components is all now the direction that we're seeing everything going. So our acquisition of a Bluetooth company was to acquire all the IP to enable us to do GNSS and Bluetooth stack combination in a single hardware module. So you get into a lot of these trends that are going to hopefully make both the design at the board level all the way through our partners that leverage our products to build their box solutions, make it easier. And the more we integrate that into the cloud environment through the application layer, for instance, we have App Zone support on our modules that allow you to do programming right at the module level. Well, in some use cases that makes sense. And other times it makes sense to do that on the processor. Other times it makes sense to do that at the cloud level. So these are all things that whoever you're working with to be your solution provider, you really got to make sure you're asking the tough questions on what's going to optimize my cost model, my efficiency model, and what am I really trying to accomplish with the data as I collect it through sensors or end devices or controllers. The consulting side of our company is really just inherent in the fact that we spend probably 80% of our time in the sales cycle educating, especially with new designs, people that have never done cellular before. whether it be around the certification processes, getting through the carrier certs, the PTCRB certs, getting through testing, working with the labs. We spend an inordinate amount of time, which we are welcome to do because that helps us obviously sell things down the road and get your products to market faster. So that's what we're all about. And so when you see us talk about IoT enablement, we're trying to put all the pieces and parts together, whether it be service-oriented partnerships or actual hardware components and their capabilities. So in my role, I manage our channel sales, which basically means anything that's not sold by our direct sales team, which includes all our partnership ecosystem. So I'm trying to make sure that the hardware manufacturers that are using our products are linking in all to the application partners and are linking into the cloud providers, whether it be Amazon or whether it be your own facilities or whether it be a global deployment or it be a regional deployment to help you understand all the nuances and all the players that you have to have as part of that solution. So I'm going to talk real quick about LTE because I heard James bring that up and there's some debate over its globalness. LTE is not by any means global. It's not even global in the United States. There's differences between the carriers in their deployments. But I think what he was referring to is we've been historically following through the standards that drive for more power, less latency, but with that comes more power requirements, more antenna design requirements, form factor issues, heavier processors, more memory, and all of that drives the expense, which has been great for cellular in the traditional M2M markets on the industrial side, but has been basically a roadblock for the IoT side, which I consider to be the consumer side of things. And so with the new standards as we move into Cat-M and Cat-NB, and you see this start to proliferate over the next 12 to 18 months, I think that's going to significantly change the trajectory of cellular in this space. It's still not going to compete with BLE. It's still not going to compete with Wi-Fi in a lot of applications, but that doesn't mean they can't be complementary. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at bundling technology, where you put Bluetooth and cellular into the same module, sharing the same processor, leveraging GNSS and Bluetooth and putting them into a bundle. Because that way it helps keep the BOM costs down in your design, but also enables you to have that common or synergetic relationship between the different technologies. Because depending, like I said, what your solution use case is, you may need both. And it's always that constant back and forth of what do I sacrifice? Do I sacrifice, cost to get to market, or do I sacrifice performance, and how do I balance those things? And that's one of the things that we will help with, even if you're working with one of our strategic partners. We like to be at the table as much as possible to help with those decisions. So I put this up here because I think this kind of talks what I was just saying, in that the LTE standards have been, based on the categories that you see up here. And category 1 is the newest, latest, and greatest. Most of that is just now coming into the market. So it's got, several years of legs left to it. It's targeting all of those customers coming off of 2G and 3G technologies that want LTE but don't need the power of a handset or a tablet. And it's a stepping stone to what we see the Cat-M space following. And as we continue to progress out through the timelines, you see that we get into the Cat-M technologies. But again, there's always going to be, like in the high-end routers and gateways, the need for more speed, more power. And we're going to continue to follow that, whether it be Cat-6 or Cat-9, and moving up that stack, but in parallel moving downstream to help the M2M IoT space. So I heard you talk a little bit about, James talk a little bit about the question around some of the wide area technologies like LoRa and Sigfox. They're obviously starting to take root in various parts of the world, and there's definitely niche opportunities to leverage them, and there's a lot of people pouring a lot of money into building out or starting to talk about building out networks. So there's a lot of unknown in that space, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have its place. And just like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and everything else, it will find its home, and it'll kind of settle into where it fits. But obviously what we see is that licensed spectrum, robust carrier standards-based driven technologies like cellular are going to be here to stay and probably be dominant, especially here in North America. So one of the questions that comes up all the time that I wanted to throw out here really quick, because I know that on the panel we'll probably get into this discussion a little bit. When do you do a module, when do you do a board, and when do you do an end device? And these are just some put your thumb up in the air numbers. Don't hold this as gospel, because so much of it depends on what your total end product cost is. For instance, if you're high-end medical equipment, a really expensive cellular module in the BOM is insignificant, so no big deal, right? But in other cases, in the wearable space, that can be huge, right? That can be the difference between whether you go to market or not. So there are a lot of our partners that have reference designs or pre-certified boards, socket modems, that can help you, especially if you're early in your first generation design, get to market faster, and we want to help you guys with those partners be successful. And then when you grow to the size where it makes sense to do a module down design, then that's obviously a move to make. But there's also that play where you just buy the off-the-shelf box. And making those decisions is not easy, especially when you're factoring in what markets you might be deploying in, whether it be domestic or global. And if you're going global, it gets even more complex with LTE because none of the carriers have the same bands, and we cannot build a module big enough to handle all of that. So you still end up with a carrier by carrier model to a large degree. So modules obviously is where we focus, but again, like I said, we have a lot of end products that are in between the module and the box products with pre-certified boards, which can help your design get to market a lot faster. If you're working with a module design, it's obviously longer, and a chipset, it's just really expensive, and unless you're doing millions of units a year and have a cost model that can support it, it's not highly recommended. So the example I had from a case study is a customer of ours called Telit, and they're basically in the commercial cleaning vacuum space. So they have the big commercial, you see them at airports and hotels and places like that where they're run their little machine around and polishing and cleaning the floor. And we work with them obviously from a module standpoint into their design to deploy on all their equipment. And we tied it in through, cellular back to our cloud, which then tied into an SAP environment, and did all that linkage and all the development support end to end. But it's fair to say we didn't do it all by ourselves. This kind of goes to an earlier question I heard during James's Q&A, where it's really hard to find one entity that can do it all. So if someone says they can, they're lying. I don't know anybody out there that can do it end to end all by themselves. They're either going to have a strategic partner for some components, or they're going to have to be fronting a consortium of partners. And the key is finding whether you're coming in from a hardware focus, whether you're coming in from an application focus, or you're coming in from a design focus, or you're already down the design path and you need just help to how do I go to market with my solution. You really need to evaluate where you are, what your expertises are internally, what your staffing capabilities are, and match it up with the partner that can help you get to the next phase the easiest. So I already mentioned that we do SIM cards and data plans and a portal. So whether you buy connectivity from us or not, you can do portal services through us. We've got the platform for the things, and these are fully integrated, so if you want to stop by our booth, we'd be more than glad to demonstrate that. And then, as I said before, besides all the technical support and services, for instance, if you're doing designs, we do free Gerber reviews, we look at schematics, we work with the labs to help you get into the labs for pre-certification testing. Our goal is that when you're using our products or one of our partners' products that have us inside, is to get you to market as fast as possible and be successful the first time through, because certifications are expensive. You don't want to go through them more than once, and you want to get to market and start making revenue, because that enables you to buy more modules. So it's all a good thing for everybody. And with that, I am done.